I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today we are whipping up a little tin or wee jar of a creamy almond lip balm. This formulation is a bit of an evolution on a lip balm formulation I shared late last year, and they both star large amounts of a pseudo wax. So when we compare a pseudo wax to a true wax, so something like beeswax or candelilla wax or carnauba wax, those are true waxes. The inky for a pseudo wax is actually a hydrogenated vegetable oil. So for this formulation, we are using almond wax, and the inky for that is hydrogenated almond oil. If you had something like olive wax, which I've also used in the past, the inky for that would be hydrogenated olive oil. These ingredients are really neat. When compared to true waxes, they create a level of sort of creamy, slippy richness that is quite unique and really not something you would get from using a traditional wax. And so for this lip balm, I wanted to continue to riff on the idea of getting that creamy, slippy, almost petrolatum-like richness, and then bring in a true wax to give it a little bit more heft and staying power. So for the waxy, hardening richness of this lip balm, I've chosen a blend of almond wax and cera bellina. So cera bellina is a modified beeswax that creates really neat ointmenty oil gels. I did try just normal beeswax in an earlier version of this formulation, and that works too, so feel free to use whichever one you have. For added richness and emolliency, I've also included 10% each lanolin and castor oil. Now I know these can be kind of polarizing ingredients. Lanolin smells less than amazing and is not vegan, though of course neither is the cera bellina. And then castor oil can just kind of be like thick and sticky. I personally love both of them in lip products, but if you don't want to use them, make sure you are reading the partner blog post and looking these ingredients up in the Humblebee and Me encyclopedia for information on substitution suggestions. And then in keeping with our almond theme, the bulk of this lip balm is sweet almond oil. You could easily use a different, relatively lightweight liquid carrier oil instead of sweet almond oil, so something like safflower oil or sunflower oil would be absolutely lovely. But yeah, we've kind of got like a bit of an almondy theme here going on between the almond wax and the almond oil, so that's why I chose it. I haven't included an essential oil in this, but if you would like to add one, you absolutely can. I've provided information on how to adjust the formulation to do that in the blog post linked in the description box below. The finished lip balm has this really lovely kind of glossy, creamy blend consistency. Like, it's not sticky, but it's also not super like thin. It's got just a really lovely sort of hybrid consistency between the richness of the cera bellina and the glossy, creamy loveliness of the almond wax. But yeah, I think that is enough chat. Let's go make some lip balm. We'll begin by combining the ingredients for our heated phase. So in this Pyrex measuring cup, I already have 1.5 grams lanolin, and I just weighed it straight in here because it's real sticky and kind of a pain to move from one container to the other. So up next, we're going to need 1.2 grams cera bellina, 1.35 grams almond wax, and to learn more about this ingredient and get some substitution ideas, make sure you're reading the blog post linked in the description box below, 1.5 grams castor oil, and 9.375 grams sweet almond oil. To melt everything together, we're going to use a water bath. So I'm just going to pop this measuring cup into this small saucepan that has about 1 inch or 3 centimeters of water in the bottom of it. And I'm going to go pop this on the stovetop over medium heat for about 20 minutes to melt everything through. Once everything is melted, you can remove your water bath from the heat and remove the measuring cup from the water bath. So to cool this, I have an ice bath here. So this is a small bowl that I've frozen about 1 inch of water on the bottom of, and I just leave it in my freezer like that so I can just pull it out whenever I need it. And then I popped about another inch of, still liquid water on top of the brick of ice. So what's left to do here, we're going to cool this balm to trace. And in the middle part of the cooling, we're going to add our vitamin E. And once it's traced, we'll pop it in its little tin, and that is pretty much it. Now I am giving this, about a minute of stirring out of the ice bath before popping it in there. This is heat shock resistant glass, but I like to not tempt fate, so I'm giving it a chance to just kind of cool down a wee bit before we pop it in the ice bath. Okay. So it's a good idea to move back and forth so you can kind of get a feel for how quickly it's cooling. The thinner the glass, the faster this will cool. And you really do want to be using glass for something like this. Metal and plastic and silicone tend to cool down a heck of a lot faster, and that can really speed things up. Though, you know, if you're doing a relatively small batch, like 10 to 15 grams, and you're using metal or thin glass, you could probably get away without using an ice bath at all. Just stir it entirely sort of on the counter, and it would cool fast enough that I think you probably wouldn't get, you know, too bored and too frustrated. All right, I'm starting to notice some wisps of opacity in here. This is starting to get a little bit hazy, so now we're going to add the vitamin E. I need 0.07 grams. If you were going to add an essential oil, you would add it at the same time that you added the vitamin E. I think 0.5% of peppermint would be really, really lovely, and you would just take that 0.5% off the sweet almond oil to make room for it. So we are almost ready to transfer this to the tin. You kind of see as I drizzle this over the surface. We don't quite have like a noticeable three-dimensional trace, but we do have sort of a relatively thin trace, and oh, that's changing rapidly. So for our package, I'm going to use this slide top tin from Humblebee. This was a gift. Any kind of sort of small tin or jar will work. This is too soft to put in a push-up tube. If you wanted to try a squeeze tube, that might work as well, like a squeezy lip gloss tube, but I have not tried it myself with this formulation. All right, I think that's good enough, cold enough. I'm just gonna dry off the outside of the measuring cup so that we don't get any water in the finished product. So you can see consistency-wise, you know, it leaves a line when you draw your spatula across the bottom of the measuring cup, and it is sort of a hazy, sort of semi-opaque. Just wrap the tin on the countertop to level everything out. Kind of use the spatula to give a little bit of a hand there too. And that's about it. We'll just leave that to set up. Once the balm has set up, you can, you know, move it around without worrying about spilling it. Just kind of wiping off the edges here to try to reduce any mess, and pop the lid on. Wipe that off again. For a bit of labeling and decoration, I'm just going to wipe the top down with a bit of isopropyl alcohol misted on a paper towel. And I'm just going to use a little bit of washi tape to give a little bit of visual distinction to the tin. And for a little bit of a demo, so you can kind of get a feel for the consistency of the product. Kind of melts and softens quite nicely between the fingers and has a sort of petroleum Vaseline-like slip to it. I find it's not quite the same, but it is reasonably similar. It's got a lovely rich feeling to it. It's not sticky really, but it is definitely, you know, sort of oily and creamy, which, you know, is to be expected. That's what we want. And there we go. So we just made a really lovely creamy almond lip balm. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and please make sure you are reading the full partner blog post for this formulation. That's linked in the description box below. You'll find a lot more information there, including information on substitutions, scaling, shelf life, links to places to buy all the ingredients, and a whole lot more. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.